Good morning. Welcome to, I was going to say welcome to the Sunday stream. It's not Sunday, it's Tuesday. No, it's Wednesday, December 31st. Welcome to the New Year's Eve stream. I don't really have anything planned special for today or tomorrow. I'm going to stream tomorrow as well. We're just going to treat this like another work day. We're just going to carve out some time and keep moving forward on our projects. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Angela. I am a software engineer and a front-end developer in St. Paul, Minnesota. How are you doing? How is your New Year's Eve shaking out so far? It's 10:30 in the morning here, so there's not too much happening other than a snowstorm. It's snowing again in St. Paul, Minnesota. So we had a lot of snow this winter. We're getting a lot of winter this winter. At any rate, how's it going? On this channel, if you're new here, we practice, let's see here. We practice HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I'm pretty much a vanilla channel. I don't do really frameworks or libraries. I don't have anything against frameworks and libraries. My preference is just vanilla. I enjoy it. I'm a front-end developer, but I really lean into building UIs. I care deeply about accessibility. I think SEO, search engine optimization, is right in line with all of that. So if you're a front-end developer and you're new to accessibility and SEO, in my opinion, they are very closely aligned from a development perspective. I know SEO is very complex, but from a development perspective, accessibility and SEO are really in line with each other. So I'm always building with those things in mind. And yeah, like I said, I don't have anything special planned. I did a New Year's Eve stream last year where I talked about my goals and metrics and data. I don't care about any of that stuff, and I don't think you guys care about any of that stuff. So let's just make this a work day. I will say this, I don't really do like New Year's resolutions. I've been down that road before. I always have goals at any given moment. It's natural at the end of the year to think about your goals for the following year, but I really don't cling too tightly to those things because trust me, things can change that are completely out of your control. I do have a goal though for my channel for 2026, which is that I am going to add weekday streaming. It just kind of seems like a no-brainer. Right now, I'm pretty much Saturday and Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. This fall, I did play with like a daily, I called it like a daily stand-up. I did it for about 3 weeks, and I kind of decided that it wasn't, I'm thinking about doing it again though, honestly, because I'm just thinking about a different approach. But for sure, what I'm going to be doing is adding weekday streaming to the channel, because why not? I love it. I absolutely love it. I am comfortable coding in public. I feel comfortable on camera after a year and a half of doing this. I'm comfortable talking to the chat. I have amazing mods. I have such amazing people showing up to support me and to watch my back and to keep the chat flowing and moving forward. It feels like a no-brainer to add weekday streaming. So what I've decided moving forward in January, I think starting the second week in January, I'm going to add Tuesday and Thursday 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm also thinking about doing a stand-up again, but I'm thinking about the format for a stand-up. I don't know. I'm not going to think too hard about it, but I'm going to think a little bit about it and just see what happens. Just try new things, right? And Rahul is here. Rahul, hello from Nepal. How is I don't know, what time is it in Nepal right now? I don't know what the time difference is between Central Standard Time and Nepal. So I don't know if it's midnight yet or close to midnight, but hello, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Go Elmo, go Elmo, formerly Go Elmo Go, currently Malik Robinson. Hello, Malik. And Malik says, we are so back, daily stand-ups. My love, you are coming back. Oh, Malik loved the daily stand-ups and he was here modding for all of them. He really encouraged me to keep going with daily stand-ups, and I kind of gave up on them a little bit because it was an experiment that didn't quite play out exactly how I imagined, but I have a different thought process for how I might do that, how I might approach that. But for sure, I'm going to add streaming on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I've already decided. I don't have anything special planned. I think I like what I've carved out in terms of streaming, which is about 2 hours of just working, hanging out with the chat, answering questions, chatting about what people are thinking in terms of development or front end development, and then just getting work done. And I love this format where we just build things. I kind of talk out loud and I can talk about what my thought process is and I can show people how I solve problems. And I get such good feedback from people, especially in the comments. I have a comment that I want to share actually. Let me show you this comment. Let me find it. Because it was a meaningful comment, and it sort of captured exactly what this channel is about and what I like doing. And I get such good feedback from people. Okay, here. This is the comment right here. And this is Caffeine Cowboy 666. And he says, new subscriber, thank you for doing these long form videos. While a wham bam thank you ma'am is nice for a quick answer to a problem, a long form unedited video helps us all by hearing your thought process, seeing mistakes, and getting to the final resolutions. That is the whole point of this channel and what I'm trying to do. And you will never see me do a course, first of all, because there are so many people doing courses. There's no way I could do it better. I also don't want to turn this channel into a funnel for courses because that's just not what I want to do. But courses are great for introducing people to new ideas. So let's say you're new to CSS and you want to get introduced to a topic and learn the syntax. Go do a CSS course. That's perfect. That's what they're for. Let's say that you need a specific answer to a question. Those polished, tightly edited tutorials are great for answering specific questions. But how do you really solve problems? How do you learn to solve a problem? You need to work on projects. I can't stress this enough. I talk about it all the time. You need to work on projects. And I don't think there are that many people doing what I'm doing, coding live, coding in public, explaining the thought process, showing people how to solve problems. So this comment that I got about 2 weeks ago, it just captured everything that I'm trying to do here. And I really appreciate feedback like that. It makes me feel so good because it can be a little disheartening sometimes, right? To be on YouTube, the growth can be, it can sometimes feel like nobody's watching. People are just ignoring you. You're doing this for nothing. And then you get a comment like that. And I'm like, wow, somebody's paying attention. Somebody's actually seeing the work that I'm doing. It's a really cool feeling. So, oh, and Rahul says it's 10:30 p.m. So we have a 12-hour time difference. Well, thank you for spending your New Year's Eve with me, Rahul. I don't know if you've got plans to go out at the stroke of midnight. Perhaps you do, but thank you for spending part of your evening with me. I appreciate it. If you're new here, welcome. Do me a favor. Click the like button. It helps the algorithm. It helps me push this out to more people who might be interested in this type of content. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. We just hang out and we practice front-end development. That's it. So, oh, and Malik says, very true. I agree with the comment. And the hair bun and the earrings look very professional. Looks very business casual. Well, thank you. Yeah, we have kind of I have curly hair. I have really curly hair, but I straighten it because I like it. I prefer it straightened. but I just couldn't do it this morning. I just didn't have it in me to do the straightening. So we went with messy bun. That's the look today. So thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. Malik is always very kind and very generous with the compliments, and I do appreciate that. So, oh, and Monique Robinson is here. Welcome, Monique, also one of the mods. All right, so the first thing that I want to do, well, let's talk about what it is that we're even working on, which is we're rebuilding this thing that I built years ago. It's called the Responsive Video Gallery. I built this before I even had a job as a developer. I got the domain name responsivevideogallery.com. I built it with jQuery, so HTML, CSS, jQuery, and I used this plugin called FancyBox, which everybody was using FancyBox back in the day. This was the end of 2013 when I made this. And then I wrote all of these instructions on how to implement this. I am a self-taught front-end developer. I am very much aware of the fact that I was able to teach myself front-end development because of the open source community, and I really wanted to give something back. And at the time, I was really obsessed with video galleries. This is a composer named Fazıl Say. He's from Turkey. And I really love his music. He's a concert pianist. I've been to Turkey. I've met him. He's a great guy. And this was sort of at the height of my Fazıl Say fandom days. I built this little video gallery. So we're redesigning this, rebuilding this with all vanilla CSS and all vanilla HTML, JavaScript. So we are at the point now in this where I think last weekend we got all of the desktop vanilla CSS written. We're also using, this is sort of the one exception to a library. I'm using this library called Prism.js for the syntax highlighting, because the whole point of this is that it's supposed to be teaching, right? That you could come here and this would be open source, and it would be teaching you how to implement this code. I haven't written yet the specific HTML, CSS content. That's fine. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I also need to, and I think we did this at one point, but I haven't finished it. We came up with what we want to do in terms of our JSON. There's going to be a JSON file with Vimeo and YouTube videos. And part of the vanilla CSS is that we're going to build, there's going to be a click event that when you click on one of the thumbnails, there's going to be a modal window that pops up with the iframe, because we don't want to load a page full of iframes. But we are going to use the JSON file and use the ID of the YouTube or Vimeo video, and we're going to pull that directly from YouTube, so we don't have to store those images. So, but we haven't gotten that far yet. Today, I really want to get the header mobile responsive. So nothing is responsive yet on this. But before we do that, I'm loading lorem ipsum images. So what I really want to do right now is, let's go ahead and make like a gray box. I need my own image and I need a gray box because I'm getting tired of waiting for the page load. And I don't like these random images. So let's just go ahead and make a gray box. So this is Affinity Photo. Just gonna go new. And let's see here, we'll do this. And I'm just going to, I think, can't we just do, hang on. Just make a nice gray box. And we'll make a transparent stroke, change the fill. Just like that. That's it. That's all I want to do. And now I'm going to export this as a JPEG. And at 100% quality, let me see here, do this. At 100% quality, this is 39.99K. I mean, it's a gray box. It doesn't need to be that. It's not that big a deal. We'll export that. So I'm just going to bump it down. So here's our projects. Here's our responsive video gallery. We'll just call this gray box. We can get this. Okay, and we have 12 selections. Whoops. There we go. Beautiful. That's all I care about. Okay, so let's just start working on our header. We wrote all of our markup. So here's our header. Oh, actually, you know what I wanted to do? I thought of this after the Sunday stream. So here's how this is going to look. Here's our desktop version. I don't have all of the social media icons, but there are 5. So we have 5 there. And then this is what the mobile drawer will look like. And these are the social media icons. That's what that drawer is going to look like. So the thing that we sort of ran into last week was I was thinking it doesn't look too bad now. Let's go back to 100%. You can tell that this nav right here is a little off. It's not exactly centered. I was struggling a little bit because this navigation, the main nav, and the social media nav over here, the social media nav over here on the right, these are in a container, and then the H1 responsive video gallery is a sibling of that container. So here's our H1 responsive video gallery. Ignore this button, that's only for mobile. And then here's the nav. So you could see here that these are siblings, this H1 and this nav. So I did Flexbox on the header and I gave the nav a width, like a percentage width, trying to center it. And I couldn't quite center it. There wasn't like math to make that work. I was kind of playing with it. After the stream, I had a thought about what I should do to get that centered. So let's go back to the header. So instead of display flex on this parent container, or I guess in this case it would be a grandparent container, because then we're also doing display flex inside this nav element for the main nav and the social nav, which would really be these two sibling elements. I was like, I should use grid on the header and then Flexbox on the nav element, because with grid, I don't have to specify column widths. I just specify columns. And I was like, yes, that's the way to do it. So let's change this. So we're going to do display grid on the header. And then we're going to say grid template columns. I want to do 1 FR and 2 FR. And that should get those where they need to be. And then we could take off this width on the nav element. Okay, that didn't quite work yet. Let's see here. Okay, we're close. We're close. I'm convinced this is still the right way to do this. So here's our header. We've got one FR, two FR. And then here's our nav element. I did think that this was going to move this over. So here's so let's see. Space between, maybe space around, space evenly. No. Okay, so maybe we just need to adjust our columns. So maybe instead of 1 FR, 2 FR, is that it? That looks kind of like it might be it. So yeah, fifths. We would do it in fifths, right? So the first column, 2 FR, the second column, 3 FR. I think this works. You guys, I think this works. Okay, let's update this here. I know there has to be a way, right? There has to be a way where the math is mathing. It looks even, right? Let's see, the real test is going to be, so it doesn't stay perfectly centered. That looks centered, but as we get smaller, I still feel like 1 and 2 should work. Okay, so that's off. But how does it look as it gets smaller? What am I missing? I feel like there's something obvious that I'm missing, but I don't know what it is. We know that because the columns are going to resize proportionally as the screen is bigger or smaller. I think that's what I can't control. So I'm just going to have to pick something and let it be. Is there a better way to deal with this markup? So we know that we want so these are for the mobile drawer, so we don't need to worry about these. In fact, I'll just comment these out because that'll make it easier to ignore them. So we have these two sibling containers. And then this is the drawer that has the main nav and the social icons. I think the problem is that you can't, I'm just never going to be able to slice up this header in a way where this is always centered on the page. That's just not how it's going to work. If all three of these things were siblings, you could easily do that with Flexbox. And the closest we got was controlling the width of this div, the second sibling, right? So maybe instead of controlling, we go back to Flexbox, and instead of controlling the second div, maybe we control the first div and we say the first div is always 50%. So we know that the container ends in the middle, but it would be 50%, but that would literally put it in the middle. Which means the nav would start in the middle. So it would be 50% minus the width of this container. 50% minus the width of this container. Which is 494.64. So we'll just call it 495. So we would say, we would just go back to using Flexbox, and we would say this is a calculation of a width of 50% minus $247.5. Okay, well, let's just try it. That's what we're here to do. We're here to experiment, right? This is the whole point of this, is that this is work time where we experiment and we figure stuff out. Okay, so we're going to go back to this, and then instead of a width on the second item, we're going to put a width on the primary logo. So this would be a width with a calculation of 50% minus 247 point. Well, should we just get exact? If we're going to do all this math, let's just get exact. Let's see here. We might as well. 494.64. 494.64 divided by 2 equals 247.32 pixels. Display flex. Okay. Where did we go wrong? Oh, space flex. %, yes. Oh, we need to make wait, space between Space between. Why isn't that pushed over to the side? Oh, do we have to? Oh, we gave the other element a width, so we have to give this a width too. So 50% plus 247.32. Ooh, this is fussy. That's actually not too bad though. This worked. This actually worked. So this is entirely dependent on this, the width of this navigation not changing. But this did work, and it doesn't feel like a hack. It just feels like we did some math. That's all it really feels like. What do we think? What do we think? And this isn't, this isn't a website teaching people how to do navigation. This is a website teaching people how to make a video gallery. So I'm not overly concerned about what I did to make this work, but I'm good with this. What do we think? And the fact that the title wraps so nicely and gives us a little extra room, gives us a lot of room. Okay, I'm very happy with this. And we can keep that drawer for mobile. So we are, look at that, we are easily down to 960. So there's 960. This is a little tight. Let's also give this a hover because we have that navy blue color. So let's give this a hover. So maybe we want to just make sure that we'll stick with 1024 there. There's our breakpoint for the header, 1024. Very, very happy with that. I love it. Okay, let's give this, here's our primary logo. Let's give this a hover active focus. Hover active focus. And the color will be navy. There we go. Very subtle, but absolutely fine. I love it. I'm very happy with this. Very happy with this. Excellent. And here's what's great about having a text-based logo, because look at the flexibility you get with that. I was very concerned that responsive video gallery was just going to be way too much for this header. And in the past, I've shown you guys how I like to make like SVG logos, just text-based SVG logos. And here's a great situation where you can just use the font for your logo and you get a ton of flexibility here. Now, if we had made this into an SVG, we still could have gotten some good flexibility because SVGs are responsive, but with a title this long, you obviously wouldn't get the wrapping. You would just get it shrinking and it would be really, really tiny. So I'm very happy with this. Very happy. Love it. Okay, very good. Let's make sure now that we have a hover active focus on our social icons. And then we'll get this drawer whipped into shape. All right. Oops. All right. Here is our social navigation, the social icons. So we have a UL social nav. I generally don't put a class name on the LI. I mean, sometimes I do. I'm not going to in this case. I don't have a class name on the anchor element. I think social nav on the UL is fine. So let's go find this. All right. Social nav icons. And right now, the main nav and the social nav are sharing some styles. I am going to give the icons a little more gap. So we'll override that. We'll just say 2 rems. There we go. And then say social nav, anchor element. Well, actually, we could just do the SVG. Well, no, because you hover on the anchor. So it would be the anchor element. What do we want to have happen? Let's look at this. Okay, so here's our social navigation. Here's the UL. Here's our anchor element. Here's our SVG. We need to, so when I hover on this, I want there to be a background. We'll do a little tiny rounded corner. I usually do like a 5 pixel border radius. And then we want the background. So for the hover active focus, it would just be transparent, but there still has to be something that exists back there. So if the SVG is 1.333 rems and we add padding to the anchor element, it's going to shrink the SVG. Let's see if I can. Pretty sure I'm right about that. So if we add padding of 1 rem, oh, it didn't shrink it. Okay, that's good. But it pushed it further apart. So, okay. So let's take that gap off. We might not need that after all. Here's our anchor element. We have to make these display block in order to add the padding. Make these display block. We'll give this padding of 1 rem. There we go. So we might actually want to decrease the gap. Oh, I think it's if you put padding on the SVG, that shrinks it with a total width and height of 1.33 rems. If you added the padding to the SVG, that would shrink it. So you want to add the padding to the parent container, which in this case is the anchor element. So I had that backwards. So let's give this a gap of 0.5 rems. There we go. So we get the same effect here. We have less gap and more padding. That's about the size. And we want to make sure that your hover state is at least 48 pixels by 48 pixels, which is 3 rems square, in order to be accessible. This is plenty big. They're about 53 pixels by 53 pixels, so we're good with that. Perfect. Okay, so we'll give this a background color of transparent. And that's it. I think that's all we need. And then we'll do a transition. Let's see here. Transition of background color, 300 milliseconds, ease in out. So that'll be the transition. And then the social nav, anchor, hover. The social nav, anchor, active. And then the social nav, anchor, focus. Oh, you know what? I'm doing this backwards. It should be focus first, hover, active. Have I been doing that right? Hang on. Hover, active, focus. I think I'm doing, hang on. Where's GitHub? I think it's supposed to be focus, hover, active. Focus, hover, active. Oh, wow. See, I took too much time off in December. Look at that. Angela. Oops. Okay. There we go. So background color is going to be, I'm going to do navy. Uh-oh, what happened? Background color transparent. Oh, right here. There we go. And Malik says a border radius of 10 pixels at least. We need a border radius emote, YouTube, please. Border, I'll test it. I know you're giving me a hard time, but I'll test it. I prefer 5. Okay, I could be convinced to go with 10. I think that looks okay. Let's transition our SVGs. So social nav, SVG, and I'm pretty sure all of these, I don't know if they're fill or stroke. Let's test. So I'm going to do fill blue, stroke red. This is how I test if an SVG is using fill or stroke. And I think they're all using, what's blue? Fill. But why do I think that, hang on. No, that's blue. Okay, so fill. So we want the default fill to be black. Well, technically that's already set though, so I don't think we have to set that twice. So we're going to set this to white, and then it would be social nav, focus, which triggers the SVG. So focus, hover, active. So when we focus, hover, or active on the anchor element, it triggers the SVG, which means that we also need, I guess we do need to set fill. So we do have to set this as black in order to transition it. Boy, I took too much time off. It's like my first day doing this. Okay. There we go. Perfect. I like it. The transition, is the transition off? I don't know. Yes, no, maybe. I don't think so. I don't know if it's worth worrying about. So, okay. Responsive. Gotta get responsive here. And Rahul says, I'm working on my tasks while running this video in another monitor. Helps me focus. It's like working together. I love that. I love that. I mean, I do that a lot with the law tubers that I watch. I just have them on in the background while I'm doing my thing. I love it. And Malik says, I think you're responding to the border radius. 10 pixels is just the right amount. Slowly being awakened to the beauty of border radius. Don't get carried away. Don't get carried away. And Malik's doing the same thing, working in the background. Love that. And Vong Primo is here. He says, hello, been a while since I last joined a live stream. Well, welcome. We're so happy that you're here to hang out with us, and Happy New Year. And Rahul says, it's an awesome feeling coding together. Even if we are very much apart, I am basically living in the future. 1 hour left till New Year here. Isn't that's so cool? Actually, I hadn't even thought of it like that, because you are 12 hours later. And you are time traveling, Rahul. You are time traveling 12 hours. I hadn't even thought of that. So. And Vong says, Happy New Year. Already 1 a.m. here in Singapore. Happy New Year. I hope everybody has a happy, productive, fruitful 2026. I think that 2025 for me, I had some surprises, had some things that I wasn't quite expecting. Which, how do you plan a year? How can you plan an entire year? You can't plan an entire year. It's just not how life works. We got through it. We got out onto the other side. We're here. We're good. Moving forward, I obviously have big plans for this channel for 2026. I feel very positive about growth and growing, and yeah. So I think 2026 is going to be great. I had it. So even though I had some surprises in 2025, it wasn't a bad year at all. Not by any means. Yeah. So there's that. Okay, let's get this mobile drawer working. Okay. So here's our drawer. We're hiding our buttons on desktop with display none, which is perfectly fine. It's exactly the right way to do it because we don't want them to be read out by a screen reader. The expected behavior is that a screen reader or even just the keyboard focus would hit the button. The user decides if they want to see the navigation. So they interact with the button. If they don't want to see the button or if they don't want to see the nav, they can go right past the button to whatever the next thing is. That's the exact behavior that we want. And we already know that we want our breakpoint to be 1024 pixels. So here's our navigation. I'm just going to put our breakpoint, our media query right at the end. So what do we want to do differently? Here are all of the things that we are display none for desktop. So let's start with making sure that we can see these things. So we'll go ahead and say display block. And then we want to make sure that we're hiding this nav element. So navigation. And I think our header is position relative. No, it's position sticky, which sort of acts as a position relative. That's fine. Although we're going to do position fixed, which doesn't matter. So we're going to say position fixed. We're going to give this a width of 300 pixels. We're going to give this a height of 100 dVH, which is, I think, dynamic viewport. We're going to say top 0. We want it to be on the left. So we're going to say left negative 300 pixels. And then we're going to say transform, translate on the x-axis 0. So we're sort of setting that we're resetting the x-axis to 0, even though it's left 300 pixels. And then the way we transform that, well, first we also want to say visibility is hidden. And that's so screen readers, if somebody chooses to go past the button without interacting with it, that drawer continues to be not accessible to a screen reader. And do we want to do opacity? I don't usually transition opacity. Let's stick with visibility. I don't think we need to deal with opacity. And then we'll transition the visibility first. So visibility, 300 milliseconds. And I'm going to make this a linear transition. And then I'm going to transition the transform. I'm also going to make that linear. Transform, 300 milliseconds, linear. And then the way we transition is by using this menu active class. So I'm going to take this off. And then we would do menu active, navigation, and it would be visibility visible, and transform, translate X, positive, negative, positive. I think it's positive 300 pixels. Let's see if this works. Okay, so that disappeared. Let's do this. So our navigation disappeared. Now if we go to the body class and we type in menu active, okay, technically it worked. We have to style it. Hang on, let's give it, needs a background. It worked. It worked. It just, you couldn't see it. Let's see here. And we'll say background color is going to be black, right? And then I think we want to make sure the text color is white. And we're going to have to change, we're also going to have to do this. Make the links white. There. So obviously the things inside the drawer are not styled yet. But that is working exactly the way we want it to. Okay, so now we just need to style our drawer, but that is working exactly how we want it to. And let's see here. Vong Primo says, time flies. A few months ago, I was watching you code a front-end mentor challenge, and about 3 weeks ago, I started my first job as a full stack developer. It's crazy. Life is truly unpredictable. Wow. So that was a year ago. That was, I think that was literally November or December 2024. So I think that was a year ago I did the front-end mentor challenge, although you could have watched that at any point, obviously. But congratulations, that is awesome. I'm so happy to find out that you're working your first full stack job, and that anything that I put out there help you. So crazy. Thanks. I hope all is well for you too. Talking to Malik, but okay. I'm so happy for you, and thank you for sharing that with us. I would love to hear more about your job, or if you run into any crazy situations that you feel like talking about, let us know. I feel like I could write a book when I think about all the crazy things that have happened at all my dev jobs. So, but congratulations. All right. So now let's go ahead and style. So here's really all we need to do is change the flex direction of the navigation. So we're just going to change the flex direction of the main nav. So let's see here. We'll just do it right here. Main nav. Flex direction, column. And then I think we also need to change, the flex direction of the header, because right now it's row. So we'll change that as well. We'll do a media query for the header. So where are we here? I'll put this at the bottom of the section. I tend to do a media query for each section. I don't know, it works for me. Do whatever works for you. This is the method that I use to organize my CSS, and it works for me. So we'll just say flex direction, column. Oh, and the other trap that I sometimes get into is this no wrap. But should that matter if I change the flex direction? Oh, actually, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter on the header. Because this is a separate container inside the nav element. So we need to change the direction on the main nav, and we need to change it inside this element as well. So we'll do that right here. There we go. Perfect. Okay, let's take a look. Here's our mock-up. Get a nice look at it. So we want these things to be spread out. Now that we've changed the direction from row to column, justify content controls how the distribution on the y-axis. When it's a row, justify content controls the distribution on the x-axis. Align items controls the distribution on the y-axis, but when you flip from row to column, that also flips. So this is justify content space between, which is doing exactly what we want it to here. So we'll add a little bit of padding. You can see here that nice distribution. Let me think about this for a second. Well, let's add some padding. So we clear, I'm going to go with a rem of padding on the left and right, and maybe 3 rems on the top and bottom, just to see if we can get it to start taking shape. So we'll add some padding. 3 rems on the top and bottom, 1 rem on the left and right. That helps. This button right here. So this makes me think that we might want to put a container around these 2 things right here, and also flexbox those 2 items. And then that's going to keep those things together in their own group, and they can be flexboxed separately. I actually think that's going to solve a lot of problems. So let's do that. We'll add a little extra markup here, totally normal. So we'll call this the site, oops. I'm going to call this the site title wrap. And then I'll put it right here. Site title wrap. We'll say display flex. Flex flow. It's a row, no wrap. And then we'll say justify content space between, which puts each item all the way to the left and the right. And then how do we want that distributed? Center. This X is in the center. So we'll say align items center. Beautiful. Now let's style. See that distribution? It looks so nice. Now let's make sure. Here's our site title. So we're going to make this text a little bit bigger, and we're going to change the font weight, and we'll make it big enough just so everything wraps naturally. Site title. So we'll say font size. I think right now it's 1 rem. So let's just bump this up to 2 rems, and we'll go from there. And we'll say font weight 400. Let's see how that looks. That's a little juicy. Let's bring this down a little bit. Maybe 1.5. Well, should we actually check and see what it is? We could always do that, right? 20 pixels. So it's the same size as the desktop, and 20 pixels I'm pretty sure is 1.25 rems, but let me check. 20 divided by 16, 1.25. Whoops. And then I kind of want the gallery to wrap, so let's add some more padding. Let's add a little more padding. And then let's add a little bit, we could just put a little margin on the side of this, right? Margin, left, right. There we go. Yeah, we'll just give put a little margin on the side. But I do like the extra padding. Margin on the right, 1 rem. I love it. And then here's our social media icons. So let's get these styled. This is coming together really, really nicely. And Malik is asking a question here. Let's see. He says, when it comes to a masonry site, visually, do you prefer the items to have a clear flow that your eyes can follow, or do you like when the sizings are unique and give the site structure some personality? So to me, masonry is all about having, the whole point of masonry is that you have different aspect ratios. So you have clean columns, but you don't have clean rows. That's the point of masonry. So in my opinion, masonry is easily achieved with CSS, but it's not appropriate for dynamic content because your first item is all the way up here on the top left. Your last item is all the way down here in the bottom right. So your content goes in rows like this. So if you have timely content or maybe like a calendar or something like that, your first item's always going to, well, really your first item's down here, down in the corner. Your last item is up here. If you think of it as a first in, last out, which timely content is usually first in, last out, right? And dynamically, it just wouldn't work if you were dynamically, like you had a load more button, because it's always going to shift what's happening in those columns. So your content needs to be, your content can't rely on that type of a structure. If you have timely content or you don't want the content to shift or change, you really, masonry is not appropriate. There are plugins and JavaScript to have a masonry layout that still has a row-like structure so you can dynamically load content, but that you can't do that natively with CSS. So as long as you are choosing content that is appropriate for the layout, you can do everything natively with CSS. And I personally love the look of masonry. I've always loved masonry. I love everything about it. I think, but it's just natively, it doesn't work in rows. It works in columns. So does that make sense? I feel like you can't talk about masonry without talking about how the content is arranged, because I've done a few masonry tutorials and videos and I always use columns because it is so simple. And in some of my videos I've explained the caveat of how it can be the type of content that it isn't appropriate for. And I think I did one video where I just didn't bother explaining it. I was like, no, this is just about using columns. Just get in, get out, show people how to do it. And I had a very long comment about how this, like, what is the point of this? This won't work in all of these situations. You could never dynamically load that. And I was like, yeah, I know. I never said that you could. I'm just trying to show you how to do it. So it's tricky. I feel like you asked a simple question and I didn't give you a simple answer. The short answer is I love masonry. I love the look of clean columns. The point of masonry is that you don't have clean rows and that you have unique dynamic aspect ratios. And that's why I love it. So I hope that makes sense. So there's that. All right. Let's get back to it. Okay, let's style our buttons, which our buttons are going to be on desktop. The menu button will be black, and in the drawer, this button, the close button, will be, so this would be the open button and the close button. That's why we need to make sure that they have different classes. And Malik says, I was looking at different sites and I like when the items look like an art display, like everything is different and unique, like a gallery wall, right? Yeah, like I think you're thinking of a gallery wall. And I agree. I like that look too. I think I like that, how that looks. So, okay. So let's style our buttons. So we've got close button, menu button, and then we've got open. Let's see here. Open menu, menu button. Let's change this. Open button, menu button, close button, menu button. That's what we wanted. Do I have to change anything else? I don't think so. Okay. So we're going to say menu button. Oops. Let's see here. Let's write some global styles for buttons. I think that was one thing I didn't do. I'll do that right here. So buttons by default have background and border. So we'll say border, none, background color, we'll just say transparent, and padding. We have to take off the padding. And buttons by default are display inline block. I don't think we need to change that. Let's see here. Display inline block, that's crossed out. Why is that crossed out? Because I set it as display block in the media query. So that is just fine. That is just fine. Okay. We do want to give this a little bit of padding. So I'm just going to say padding of 1 rem. And then let's make sure that the menu button SVG we're going to give that a width of 1.333 rems and a height 1.333 rems. And then we want to make sure that, whoops, for desktop, by default, it's going to be black. And it's stroke, not fill. But the close button needs to be white. There we go. And I think this is way too small. Yeah, I think it could even be a little bigger, huh? If we do 3 rems, we don't need to add padding. Maybe we could do 2.5. And then we can change this to 0.25, which would equal 3 rems. Yeah. There we go. 48 by 48 and 48 by 48. Why aren't we centered anymore? What happened? Oh, space between. Okay. Should be space, why do we have space over there? What happened? Why did that change? Space between flex. I did something that screwed up our beautiful header. What did I do? Did I do something here that screwed it up? I don't think so. Hang on, we'll figure it out. This is pretty typical that I get desktop styles nailed down and I start working on mobile and I screw something up. Okay, if you're space between, then why are you pushed over? Row, no wrap. We're on desktop, so there's no media query. What am I not seeing something here? Did this change? No, that's fine. The buttons are display none. Why is that pushed into the middle? Is it align? Wait, justify? That pushes it back over to the left. Align items. Oh, it's because of the menu. Is it because of the menu active? No. Let's take that off. What did I do? Why is that pushed in to the center? Oh, it's because of this. Site title wrap is taking, I think the site title wrap is taking up space. That's why. Because it's, even though it's 0 pixels by 0 pixels, we have to display none the site title wrap. It's part of the distribution. Got it. So instead of right here where we're hiding things, so instead of hiding site title and menu button, we can just hide the site title wrap, which contains those two things. And then okay, so there's where we show them again. Hang on, where are we hiding? Right here. Got it. Okay, it should be fixed now. Now it's fine. Oh, but it doesn't contain the button. Okay, so I guess we do need to do both. So site title wrap, menu button, because the button's not inside the wrap. Okay, we're back to normal. There we go. I will say when this wraps to the third line, it changes the height. Changes the height of our header, which is fine. So if it wraps to 2 lines, doesn't change the height. Wraps to 3 lines, it changes the height. That's actually fine because we can take some of the padding off this header for mobile anyways. So that doesn't bother me. And then we're getting extra padding because we put a lot of padding on these buttons. So that's pushing that open also. Because what was it? It was 89. It's a little bigger now. It's 117.82. This weekend it was 89. So we could just give the header a height. We're relying on the header height being consistent for these scroll points. So I would actually be fine with that. And then we don't have to mess around with padding and trying to keep that consistent. So let's just give our header a height. Nothing wrong with that. So let's just give it a height of 90 pixels. And let's not worry about the padding on the header. So we could do 0 on the top and bottom, 2 rems on the left and right. That's still going to evenly distribute it along the y-axis. And then we have a scroll point right here of minus 89 pixels. We'll change that to 90. Now that we have a fixed height that we know isn't going to change. Perfect. And then these still have plenty of room on the top and bottom. And then let's see what adjustments that we have to make. Okay, so there's our wrap. Now it disappears. Okay, so we need to, once this disappears, we still have a width here that is responding, and we don't need that anymore. So let's make sure that we aren't, I just don't see a reason to ever need this to wrap to a third line. So let's make sure that we are taking this off, this width off on the primary logo. So we're going to do that in the header, which is right there. So really it's the primary logo. And we're just going to say width auto. And then we might as well do the same thing here, right? Although we're already changing the width, it's 300 pixels. So we're already changing the width for this media query. So you can already see there. So it briefly wraps. And then it pops back to one line. I think that's fine. And then it wraps. So the last word wraps. Then the second word wraps. And look how far down we get. 315, 313. And we haven't changed any of the padding on the left and the right. That's excellent. So let's adjust our padding. Right now it's 2 rems. We'll go down to 1 rem. I'm going to leave the height at 90. I think that's perfectly fine. So we'll add that to our media query. So that padding's going to change a lot sooner. And then I mean, technically, do we need to change anything? I mean, look how small this gets. Is this one of the tightest headers we've ever done with so little effort? Look at that. 250? I don't think we need to do anything. I don't think we need to change. I don't think we need to change the height. I don't think we need to change the text size. No device is that small. And you can't shrink a screen to nothing. That's just not how it works. You can do your best to support the tiniest size. Honestly, I try to get things down to about 320. Right about there. Realistically, it's going to be more in the 375 ballpark. And I think that looks perfectly fine. Wow, think of how the hours that we have spent on a mobile, like tightening up a mobile header. This is by far the most effortless. I will say, I wish that maybe this transition was a little smoother, but I don't think it, although, look at, this is, yeah, we do need to make this a little, I think we need to make this a little smoother right here. Right here. So this is bleeding off canvas here. So what can we do to tighten this up? Well, let's see. So I think the first thing that we should do is right now, these are bigger than they need to be. They're 53 by 53. They only need to be 48 by 48. So let's take care of that first. So right now, here we go, social nav. So right now, we've got 1 rem of padding, and I think our SVGs by default are 1.33. Okay. And I like the size. 1.33, I like the size. So hang on, let's do this math. So if we have 3 minus 1.333 divided by 2, the padding should be 0.8335. We'll see if that helps. So the padding, instead of 1 rem, should be 0.8335. And then let's cut this gap from 0.5 to 0.25 and see if that helps. Pretty close. It's still pretty tight there, isn't it? Let's cut the gap as we get a little bit smaller. So maybe at a media query of around, where's 1200? So here's 1200. Let's reduce the gap here. Right now the gap is 1 rem. If we cut that down to 0.75, how are we doing? Yeah, I think that works. So I'm going to cut this gap down to 0.25. We adjusted the size of the SVG and the padding. Well, we kept the same SVG size. We adjusted the padding. And then let's do a media query. So here's a media query of 1024. Let's do a media query at 1200. Oops. And we'll say main nav gap 0.75. Yeah, I think this is okay. We're going to go with it. We're going to go with it. I just want to make sure that we're not busting off canvas. So, okay, I'm good with this. I'm good. Malik is a fan. Yeah, I think it's super tidy. I love it. And Rehan Anwar is here. Happy New Year in advance. Well, Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you for hanging out with us on New Year's Eve. right. So let's finish styling this drawer. Menu active. All right. Let's make sure that we have a hover for our buttons. And no one is here. Hello. Hello, no one. Happy New Year. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for joining. Yes, thank you, Monique. Do me a favor, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. We would love to have you. I'm here every Saturday and Sunday, planning to add more streams during the week in 2026. Yeah, come hang out. We're nice. We're nice and we're nerdy and we're fun. And we just enjoy front end, HTML, CSS, accessibility, all the good nerdy stuff. Okay, let's make sure that our buttons have a hover state. Also, when this drawer is open, we don't want to show the open menu button. So let's go down to our menu active. So when the menu is active, the open button should be visibility hidden. I don't want a screen reader to be able to click on that button. So there we go. So if this is gone, now we have it, and now we don't. Perfect. And then what is our hover going to be for the open and close button? So here's menu button. It's got padding. I don't think we need to transition. I don't think that we need to transition with a background. Although I guess we could. There's enough space. So let's make sure that by default there's a background color of transparent. And then for the open button, we want a background color. We'll do navy. We can stick with navy. And then for the close button, we'll do a background color. Whoops. Of white. And then the close button is the button. So on the open button, focus. The open button, hover. And the open button, active. We want the background color to be hang on. We already set, hang on, I did this backwards. This is the desktop. So we don't need this. And then on hover, we want this to change. So we don't need this. Whoops. This one right here. There we go. Now we just have to transition that SVG. Let's take out the menu active. And there we go. Perfect. Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you so much, Noan. Happy New Year to you as well. And yes, we have 11 hours. Well, for me, I have about 11 hours and 45 minutes. It's 12:15 in the afternoon. Oh, 11, I bet 11:45 p.m. in no one's country. Exactly 12 a.m. from Nepal. Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year. I love this. I get to celebrate so many times because we're doing it on stream. I love it. Because here's the reality. I will not be awake at midnight. I haven't been awake at midnight on New Year's Eve in years, maybe a decade. I will be in bed sleeping at midnight tonight. So nowhere I would rather be than celebrating New Year with my friends around the world. So happy New Year. All right, let's get back to it. Okay, so I like the distribution here, even though it's going to be a little more distributed than, although, let me think about this. So we've got it's the nav drawer. So we're distributing this, we're distributing this, we're distributing this, and then we're distributing the copyright. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We could, but I really like having this at the top, this at the bottom, and then these are evenly distributed. So this is a little closer here, but I think I'm okay. Where is it here? We have to find it. Oh, we lost it. I'm okay with the distribution, which is right here. Yeah. Okay. So let's get this figured out first. We'll do the main nav first. So this has borders. This would be display block, the anchor element, and then these are justified to the left. So let's do that. So it's the main nav. So this would be the main nav anchor element, display block, width 100%. This we're going to have to say align items flex start. There we go. We need to make sure though why is that so narrow? Why is that so narrow? Oh, probably because this is display type list item. Do I have to make these with the 100% also? Why is that so narrow? It should be as wide as the container. What am I, oh, is it the transform? No, that's the container. This should be all the way over to the left. Oh, is it because flex direction column, hang on, flex direction column on desktop, I think we need to do align items flex start. That's why. Let's see here. There we go. Let's make sure we didn't screw it up for desktop. Looks okay. And then let's get this spaced out a little bit more. So I think we have to say, we have to make this wider. There we go. Does everything need, I mean, do we need this? I don't think we need that. There we go. Let's take that gap off. I'm going to take the gap off. We're going to say could probably just use padding, like 1 rem of padding on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and 0 on the left and right, and then border bottom 1 pixel solid, and let's use our gray so it's not so bright white. Oh, that's on, hang on, I put it on the wrong thing. Yeah, we probably do want this on the LI, main nav. The thing I just deleted. What? Oh, for God's sakes. So we do need to make sure this is, does it have to be display block too? Just with the 100%. There we go. And we need to make this a little softer. We just need to make that a little bit softer. So maybe let's try something like this. Okay, let me think about this. See, something along those lines. Let's try. That looks pretty good. Yeah, I like that. We'll add a variable for that. So we'll call it dark gray. Where'd you go? Right here. Dark gray, and then let's make sure that we don't have it after the last item. So we'll say main nav li last. I usually do last of type. I think you could do last child. And then we'll say border bottom none. There we go. Let's make sure that our navigation shows up, and then we'll go back and we'll make sure that we transition our hover here and update the SVG. So for this, we just need to invert because it's got a solid background. Do we love this drawer? I love the drawer. It looks so good. I'm so into it. Oh, and we need to make sure that our icon here on the main nav is showing. So let's make sure that that's working. So this is getting our global style. Let's just make sure that we're changing the stroke. Let's see here. We can just do this right here. So we'll just say main nav SVG stroke is white. There we go. And now we'll go ahead and fix our social icons. So the social nav. So here's our social nav. We'll go ahead and start a new media query. And we're really just going to reverse engineer some of these things, right? So the social nav anchor is going to have a background color of, well, it would still be transparent, wouldn't it? We're just going to change the SVGs. So we'll say social nav anchor element SVG. We're going to change the fill to white. And then this would also change, right? So I think we would also do, we would change the background color to white. What else is going to change here? And then this, the fill would change to back to black, right? Beautiful. This looks a little off, doesn't it? That's because this is bigger than the container. That's why. So I think I added a ton more padding. We could take that, we can play with the padding. That's no problem. That actually looks better, right? I think I added more padding because I wanted responsive video gallery to wrap, but honestly, this still looks good. And if I really need this to wrap, I can add more margin here. So how does that look? That looks like that fits really well within our container. I think actually it's a little it's skewed a little to the left, but I'm not, it doesn't bother me. I'm okay with it. In fact, we could probably, okay, well, let's change that first. So this is our navigation. We're going to change the padding on the navigation in the media query. Which is right here. I still like having 4 on the top and bottom. Actually, do I? Do I like having 4 on the top and bottom? Maybe, I think I like having 4 on the top. I think I like having a little less on the bottom. There we go. So this isn't exactly evenly distributed like I'm doing it, but I like how I'm doing it. And even though this container is justified to the left, which is what we want everything inside the nav element to be justified to the left. Couldn't I still say for this, like width 100%, because this is Flexbox and I could take out the gap and say justify content. I think I can do that. So let's say, so let's put div 100. So let's say with 100% for the social navigation div, which that's just a container. We're not really using that for anything other than its purpose is just to be a container. But we would want to do that inside the media query. So let's make sure that we, on desktop, we say social navigation. We'll just say with auto, so it plays well on desktop. And then in the media query, we'll say social navigation with 100%. So let's make sure we didn't break anything. It already, you could already see it, it's straight centered. Yes, did you notice that? Right there. Am I the only one who saw it? That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. If we really wanted to be picky, which I kind of do, we could say, we could change the gap and change the distribution also. So this is the gap on desktop. So I'm going to change this to 0. And instead, because the social nav right here, this is justify content center, we can change this to space between, and it will evenly distribute it with the first item and the last item right up against the edges. So we won't see this pushed in because you can very clearly see this. Well, technically it's still going to look a little pushed in because we have padding here, but it will be up against the edge. Trust me. Trust me. You're just going to have to trust me. And we'll say space between. There we go. One moment. Okay. So you can see now that distribution, and you can see there's a natural gap because we have that distribution. So that, I love it. It looks great. It looks great. So let's see, what would this look like? Yeah, we're not going to get a good sense of how this looks on mobile because the rest of the page is not responsive yet. So, but you get a little bit of a sense, right? I just think it looks great. I'm very happy with it. Very happy with this. And then we don't really have that hover state. So let's make sure that we have our hover state. We just need to invert the text decoration. Text decoration color transparent. We just need to make sure that on hover, see right now it's white. So we just need to add text decoration color to this right here. So I think we can add it right here. Do I have this navigation right here? Text decoration color. I'm going to change this to white. Hang on. It has to be on hover, active focus. Navigation. There we go. Perfect. Love it. Okay. Final thing we're going to do is let's make sure that we have this lined up. So let's add to our global button styles cursor pointer. Yeah, cursor pointer. There we go. And then let's style. Let's go ahead and style. Well, I think we already styled menu button. We just need to do the transitions. Right here. So let's make sure that we have a transition for the background color. 300 milliseconds, ease in out. We can go ahead and add that border radius of 10 pixels. So there's our nice transition. And then we want to make sure that on the, we'll add a transition here as well for the stroke. Whoops. .300 milliseconds, ease in out. And then we want to make sure So when we focus on the close button, when we hover on the close button, and when the close button is active, if we have we're changing this from white to black. There we go. Now we need to do the same thing for the open button. So I'm actually just going to copy this. I'm going to put it right here. Well, put it right here. And then this would change from, it's black on desktop, so this would change to white. There we go. And this has a navy background. Wow, we did it. We did it. Love it. Love it, love it. So we are just over 2 hours. This is perfect. This is exactly the way I like to deal with these things. I always want CSS to do the heavy lifting. Always, always, always. Tomorrow we'll go ahead and write the JavaScript. We'll write the click events for those buttons, but it's literally going to be click a button, add a class to the body. That's what we're going to be doing here tomorrow. I do see a lot of, it's not wrong to use JavaScript to do a lot of these things. I think it's more efficient to have CSS do the heavy lifting and only use JavaScript where you need it, to click a button, add a class to the body, and then let all the CSS do the work. To me, that is maximum efficiency. That is the most efficient way to handle things. And I personally, I could not be happier with this. We figured out how to get our navigation nice and centered. I love it. I love it. So we'll write the JavaScript tomorrow to handle those click events, and then we're going to quickly go through the page and make everything else responsive. And then we'll get this pushed up to a GitHub page, and we'll test on a mobile device and make sure things are actually looking good on a mobile device. But I am very happy with this. This is an excellent amount of work to get done in 2 hours, right? To get this mobile and looking this good in 2 hours, that's really good. I'm very pleased with this. Yeah, and I love this drawer. I really do want to see this drawer on a mobile device because this is obviously really spread out on desktop. So I'm anxious to see how it really looks on a phone. I think it's going to look great. I think it's going to look great. We'll get this grid nice and responsive. There's not going to be too much more that we really need to do with our content sections. Maybe we'll clamp this text. So once we get down to a smaller screen size, because right now this text is 1.25 rems, maybe we'll go ahead and clamp the text to go down to 1 rem. I was also thinking we could change this tab space on the left. I think right now the tab space is 1. Maybe we could change that not down to 0, but just reduce it from there. And we'll make sure also that our footer is nice and responsive. And we need to sort of evenly distribute these items down here as well. So, all right. This was a great day. Thank you, everybody who joined me and hung out with me. do me a favor, like the video if you haven't yet. It helps the algorithm, helps push this out to more people who might be interested in this type of content. Subscribe if you haven't yet. We would love to have you hang out with us in the chat. Here every Saturday and Sunday, going to be adding some weekly streams, which speaking of which, I think I said last weekend that I was going to do a 7-day stream. I said I was going to do a 7-day stream starting January 3rd. I've actually amended that to a 5-day stream because I failed to realize that after Friday was the weekend. So that's not really a 7-day stream. It's a 9-day stream. So I'm going to be here tomorrow also, New Year's Day. And then starting Saturday, January 3rd through Wednesday, January 7th, we're going to do a 5-day stream or a 5-day sprint. I'll be streaming every day starting at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I'm generally here for about 2 to 2.5 hours. I don't have anything special planned. The whole point of a sprint for me is that it's dedicated work time. I have lots of projects planned, things that I want to work on. So we're just going to go live and do our work. We're just going to work together. I'm going to work on my stuff. You're going to work on your stuff. It's just dedicated work time. That's what these streams are. That's what we're going to do. And then I'll take Thursday and Friday off. And then starting Saturday, January 10th, I'm going to be here every weekend, continuing every weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And I'm going to start streaming on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Just want to start adding some weekdays in. See if there are other people that wouldn't normally catch me on the weekends that might be around during the weekdays that would come hang out with us. I mean, why not, right? I don't have anything else going on, right? So Go Elmo Go says, I see the vision, good change. No one, it's looking nice, good work. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody who hung out with us. Monique Robinson, Malik Robinson, No One, Rahul. Who else did we have here? Rehan was here. Vong Primo was here from Singapore. Everybody, have an awesome New Year's Eve. Stay safe. Come back tomorrow, hang out. We'll write a little JavaScript. We'll nail down a few more responsive styles, and then we'll pick it back up this weekend. Yeah, because that's what it's all about, hanging out. Happy New Year, everyone. Have a great night. Stay safe, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.